Inventory is still high, interest rates are still high. Is one of the things that's stopping your house from selling, your stuff in your house? A recent article on Reddit dives into just that some agents are not showing this property, or the agent refuses to show a property because there is too much stuff in the garage. Let's chop it up. What do you guys think?
Yeah, there's always silly and fun stories, so to speak, on Reddit. I looked at it, and the 15-second highlight is the listing agent called the sellers, and per the sellers was pretty irate and, quote unquote, cursing at them, which is, that's already interesting all in itself. And supposedly they had a couple showings. They said a property, it's in good condition, fully renovated. It shows well, but their garage is really cluttered, which is, I don't know about you guys, but pretty 99.9% of the time the case in the listing. And one thing you advise your sellers is to declutter the property and throw it all in the garage.
Yep.
So anyway, with that aside, the listing agent's claiming to those sellers that someone wanted to write an offer on the property, but didn't because the garage wasn't cleared. And I can't, you can't say for certain whether that's not true or not. If that's the case, then clearly those buyers aren't serious about the property. And the second part is the agent is full of crap. I'm just going to say it out loud. There's no way in heck that the property is being deterred from being sold by having their stuff in the garage. Never have I ever heard something in my career, and per this agent, he's never had this happen in his 30-year career. So who knows, right? This is just a Reddit story. There may be more facts that we're unaware of. This is the seller's perspective and their quick story about it. I think the agent's insane and they should fire him immediately. That's just
well, it is kind of fun to peel it back. What do you think, Jacoby?
I do think he's insane. However, we both know that a vacant property does sell a lot quicker than one that is cluttered with stuff. So while I think that wasn't the determining factor of why we didn't get an offer, or that agent didn't get an offer, I truly believe that can be a determination on whether or not they write an offer then, or a couple of weeks later, or even come in below list price. So you kind of have to look at it both ways.
Now, Jacoby, you bring a interesting perspective on this because, again, being you were with us just a couple of days ago, but as a reminder to the listeners out there, Jacoby has a very unique role. She's a buyer liaison here at Zoodealio, so that means that she interacts with a lot of the buyers and the agents at the platform and makes everything very smooth. And one of the things that we actually come in and solve is decluttering. Sometimes when people have too much stuff, the buyers will go in and buy your stuff and not like your stuff and maybe not offer on the property. Now, I am with Keith, just a little side note. That is what you tell your clients, to put their stuff in there. Now, that maybe wasn't there is maybe this stuff was like chaos and they think that the house was treated like chaos, kind of trying to throw a bone, and maybe I'm grasping at straws here.
Possibly.
But I'm curious, what is your perspective on this, especially because you see so many projects at the very beginning before they go through renovation and the, blank show, beep show that they are before they get the renovations.
So definitely homes that are decluttered, vacant, when we get them on the market, do perform a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
However, not every seller takes that option, and it really does bite us because we're trying to achieve the highest price possible. But it's hard to imagine yourself in a home when there's a bunch of stuff everywhere. And while you might think it's beautiful to you and holds sentimental value to you, not everyone's going to think that way, and someone might see it as garbage.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, but I mean, this is that. I mean, I totally everything you guys said is 100%. I believe in is accurate, but we're straying off of the Reddit story a little bit. That's a totally different circumstance. These are home sellers that are living in their property, and they have stuff, and their garage is full. We don't know the extent. We don't have photos. I'm just going off of what the seller's perspective is. I don't think that would affect the listing.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that it really kind of depends on the delivery of it, right? If it's actually like trash and chaos and disorganized and it looks like there's rats living in there, right? Then that can be a deterrent.
Yeah,
but
we're going
I'm
off
playing
of the
devil's
deep end.
advocate for sure.
None of that was mentioned. And if you start reading a bunch of the comments below, there's people who have said that they've purchased houses with crap in the garage, all stuff in the garage, and there just seems to be a big disagreement with what happened. But anyway, interesting story.
Well, what I find interesting is how the agent would complain and not work within their fiduciary duties and represent that client. And hey, here's the problem. Here's how we can. Here's suggestion A, B, or C on how we can solve it. Because really, that's what you should be doing as the true practitioner. If you think that that's what's stopping the sale, your job is to sell the home, solve the problem.
And that's what they're being paid for. That's why they're being compensated. At the end of the day, where do we start holding these agents accountable for the way they're reacting to a situation? Not every home is perfect. Not every home is going to be a beautiful masterpiece, newly built. You need to kind of just do what you have to do. And sometimes you're served something sandwich, and you have to market it as best you can. You can't take it out on your clients because everyone is living life the way you are, and you just have to take it as it rolls.
Yeah, it really is. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think that we're in this unique time right now because we were just talking about the other day that, hey, based on the mortgage spreads that are going on, they're actually trending in the right direction, and it's looking like rates could be coming down. Right. So I'm very curious that if rates drop, do buyers start to solve problems in their brain so much quicker? And it could be something as simple as, hey, I don't like the floor. I don't like the paint. Oh, this backyard, that's there's a tree that's in the backyard that's, causing a landscape nightmare, right? How many problems are they going to immediately start solving because the house becomes now affordable, right? What do you guys think about that?
Well, we know that buyers not only solve problems in their brain, they wave magic wands and come up with numbers that shouldn't even have existed in the marketplace in the first time. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know if we're going to obviously experience that, but when rates get cut, I do think that that'll cause some excitement in the marketplace, and buyers will then go, well, okay, maybe I can overcome this, because it just comes down to, guess what? There's going to be another buyer that might have the same mindset. And that's where it comes into play. Well, I have to make a decision myself internally, or I might lose this place. And that's where I think the problem solving comes internally for these buyers.
Yeah. You bring up such a curious topic there, Keith, right? Is like people putting price tags on things that just are ridiculous sometimes. Like case in point, I was just using the landscaping one that we've all seen, right? Where a backyard has some overgrown landscaping and they want a $10,000 discount because they have to come in and deal with the overgrown shrubbery in the property and removing a tree that's going to cost $5,000, right? So just these astronomical numbers. Can you speak to that, Jacoby, on what you think? Just again, having the unique looking at things through the unique lens that you do.
So while those things do matter, we do, at least with our program, we try to solve a lot of those issues up front. It does impact the buyers on the resale market because they are looking for a move-in turnkey ready home because they're not trying to take on a huge project. At least that's what it's been showing in the past year or so.
Yeah, well, and to your point, I mean, Keith, there's nobody that knows this better than you. When somebody is going to take on a project, a lot of times they will not only put a crazy price on it, but, I don't know anybody. And then I'm going to get took, right? Like, I'm going to get scammed. I have to go deal with a contractor, right? They don't want to solve problems. And honestly, can you blame them, Keith? Because with the house being 25% more in payment than it was a couple years ago in a lot of cases, and being 30% higher in price than it was in just a few years ago, these are all jagged pills that people are having to swallow right now.
Yeah, I mean, that is the challenge that we face. Most buyers don't want to take on a project. So when they feel like they have to, they put a lot more weight on it, so to speak, to where, they think it's going to be possibly, harder and much more expensive than it's going to be. And that's a tough negotiation because it's kind of like, well, they're the buyer for the house. This is what they want. And, you're kind of at a catch-22. Okay, well, do we give them what they want so we can, make the deal work, or hope and pray we find another buyer that's not in the same similar mindset, which is a lot of times likely going to be the case, or find another buyer that's willing to overcome that, but then at a lower price. So it's definitely interesting. As Jacoby said, whenever you can improve a property to where it's just not only show ready, it has a good experience, and it needs minimal work, maybe not like, the most dope flip you've ever seen. Just, hey, I can...
Yeah, a place that they can be proud.
I can move into this place. It needs little to no work, and I'm good.
Yep.
Then that's where typically you can, eliminate a lot of those objections.
I can live, throw a house party and kids' birthday parties right away.
That and DIY is not trendy anymore. Like, let's be honest. A lot of people went through that DIY phase and they realized how hard it was, how much of a headache it was. They're kind of traumatized from it, and they're like, let's just go in there, and as long as it looks good, it's livable, let's go.
Yeah, amen to that. Mm-hmm. So curious from you guys, what do you think on this? Because, the inflation reporting came out last week that just obviously the numbers were, I think it was like 2.3% or something. So it came out much, much lower. And what that did is I think it just now really put pressure on Jerome Powell to lower the rates, which is, I think they're slotted to meet in early June. But, if that hits, what do you guys think that we'll see? Do you think we're going to get an immediate reaction, or do you think it's going to be one of those times it's a little bit of a delayed reaction? Because sometimes it takes a couple weeks to hit.
I think it's going to be a delayed reaction because people are going to think it's too good to be true.
I can see that.
I mean, there could always be a delay, right? Because people just want to see how that affects the market. But I think at the same time that if anybody does any due diligence in the marketplace, they are waiting for that to happen, and we will see an immediate reaction at some level as well.
Yeah, I think you're going to have some pent up demand, right? People that are going to lock, right? Because if you lock, you're good, right? Like you can go, on that. And it's just, I think we're in this really unique time. One of the things that we were talking about in, pre-show is really just the whole, what I believe is the changing hands of how money and essentially, works. I mean, and I don't mean this is like going to happen tomorrow or even next year, but like when we start looking at the rise of crypto, and one of the things I want to talk about here is the Genius Act, right, which has everything to do with how we're going to solve a lot of this. Our $36 trillion of debt as a country, and being able to monetize on the shift of really digital property, right? And how do we use that? How does it fast track certain things? But I mean, a lot of that stuff is far out, so I don't want to get too far out. These are immediate opportunities that can happen right now. And it's so much of the youth right now that Gen Z, they're heavily involved in crypto. And if that happens and creates a liquidity and gives them the ability to buy a historical asset like a house that is a safe holding investment, especially if you hold it for more than 7 years, right? What's the stat? You don't lose on a property 99% of the time if you hold it for more than 7 years. Pretty wild to think, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I figure I'm just throwing out a new topic here, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we talked about this in other podcasts before. I mean, it's the wave of the future, right? You have governments getting involved, especially, the United States government and, the new administration. They are going to be some of the biggest influences on the planet now when it comes to the crypto world. And we're already starting to see the rise. And I think in the next 90 days, it's going to be more prevalent than ever. And it's going to force lenders and other creative financing to get into that world. 100%. I think it's actually going to move quicker than we think.
Oh yeah, I crypto, Kraken and Coinbase, and a lot of these places are going to become banks.
Yeah, that's what I meant. When I meant move
crypto
sooner than we think, as meaning like it wouldn't surprise me. And by the end of the year, there's going to be multiple solutions on being able to buy a property with your crypto. I know there's some places right now talking about it, but we know solutions come up quick when there's really no choice. There's going to be no choice.
Well, adapt or die. I mean, it got staved off a little bit, but the SEC lawsuit against XRP is
but that's about over with.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's just so many massive things that are going down, and that is really going to just change things quickly. And what is it? The CEO, I forget, Jay's not here and he always remembers his name, but the CEO of Bank of America, I think probably about 6 weeks ago now, came out publicly and was like, hey, we would love to be involved as soon as this is figured out regulatory wise, right? Where they want to custody your crypto, right? So you're talking Bank of America, the largest conformant bank in the world, I believe. Don't quote me on that, or somebody fact check me. But coming out and making that statement, that is just crazy bold.
It makes me excited for the future, especially since we'd be able to purchase homes with crypto, possibly our cars. It'd be super cool to see like a paycheck in crypto.
Well, and I mean, here's the crazy concept of it, right? Is you have money that literally loses value, right?
Every day.
Yep. Your $100 that's in your pocket is losing value minute by minute, right? I mean, obviously it's a smaller percentile, but then now you have the ability to put the ability to exchange value, right? I.e. the crypto, the digital property that's going to appreciate. And
so then you're not losing money.
Right. And it's just
there's
like
always
a liquidity of it.
Upswings and downswings. Can't say you won't ever lose money.
Oh, that's fair.
But yes, as far as something that it's just determined based on the demand of the marketplace. And right now the marketplace is saying that it's being adopted at a higher level than we've ever seen. And that's never going to change at this point.
Yeah, I know. It's It's really bizarre and wild to think about. So one of the things too that I think is just again really unique because it's been hard in real estate, right? Whether you're in the title side, the lending side, heck, home inspectors, what right? Like real estate is such a massive industry, and it's been hit hard because of the cost and really ultimately the demand, right? It's a consumer-driven ecosystem. And I think that there's light, now at the end of the tunnel, right? So one of the last things I'll bring up here is ultimately, I think it seems like that there's kind of light at the end of the tunnel with the tariffs, right? And everything that's kind of gone on in China. One of the things that weirded me out on that was that basically they have like 300% more expense and debt than their income. And so the fact that the U.S. has been able to do like 150% tariff on them back has actually hurt them more than it's hurt us. And so they're just as ambitious to solve these issues as us. So it's pretty wild when you guys think about that.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're printing an insane amount of money. But with that, though, I want to throw out there, yes, there's always market circumstances that could potentially make real estate, quote unquote, difficult in regards to transactions and being a licensed agent and all that stuff, but there's always opportunity.
Yes.
Here's what I can tell you. Within the Zoodealio platform, we have more cash offer acceptances than we've ever seen, starting from pretty much after March. Why is that? Because home sellers and agents are feeling it. So the ones who want to find a solution, there is a solution out there. So if you feel like you're getting hit hard, guess what? There's always an opportunity. There are solutions. You need to step up, make sure you have cash offers in your presentations, and make sure you're talking about cash offers and starting your conversation that way. And I promise you, with 100% certainty, you will find more business.
Oh yeah.
That's there's massive opportunity right now with all that aside. And all I can say is based on results, the numbers don't lie. With the amount of cash offer acceptances demand says otherwise. So I'm just throwing it out there that push, open your mouth, start that conversation that way, and you'll be able to stay afloat and generate more business for yourself.
You know what? You bring up such a good point. And if you're really willing to look at the numbers, it can be affected more. And but here's the numbers. In a crazy busy market, the turnover rate on an annual basis ends up being about 6%. On a really dead slow market, the turnover rate ends up being about 4%. So when you look at that out of 100 homeowners, that's only 2 less transactions that are happening. The point I'm trying to make here is, to Keith's point, when you really are willing to go out there, have more hustle, have more intelligent conversations, lead with a sharper knife, right? i.e. a full market value cash offer based on the current market conditions. These are things that are going to constantly keep you and your business at the center of the conversation and the decision-making for that homeowner. Because regardless of the market circumstances, people need to sell when they need to sell. And if they need to sell, you have that opportunity to serve and support those needs and help them reach their goals. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think that this is a lot of times where agents really figure out not only who they are, right? I don't want to sound cliche in saying that, but they find out really, can you grow and get a business to thrive in any and all markets? So I don't know if you guys have any takeaway thoughts on that, but I mean, I think that your point is so valid that there is always opportunity that's out there. And if you cut through the fluff and the froth, we can get to the meat and potatoes and do some deals.
Yeah, some of our agents, especially the repeaters, are leading with the cash offer with Zoodealio first, and they're securing the listing. Even if they don't go with us, they're still securing the listing because they're showing that they have more options. The seller feels way more confident in them because they went through every single opportunity with them, and it's going to work it out. And also with Zoodealio, they have that guaranteed initial payout. That's helping them too. So
cash now, cash now, cash.
And a lot of times that's going to talk a lot better than a hypothetical.
Yep.
That's the word of the day. Opportunity.
Yep.
Opportunity.
Well, there you have it. If you want to tune into Opportunity week after week, make sure you hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell so you, of course, are notified every time we drop a new episode. As always, thanks so much for tuning in.